A single research study rarely gives us enough certainty to say that its results will always be true in every situation. Instead, research is an ongoing process. It's based on many different findings and explanations that, when combined, help us understand educational matters in general. In order for a culture to exist and work properly, people who belong to that culture need to follow its rules and norms. This means they should want to obey and fit in. To do this, they first need to understand and accept the norms and values that define what's considered normal in their culture. Where a restaurant is located in the city can greatly affect how well it does. Once a restaurant is set up, it can't change its location. It can only try to make it easier for customers to reach them. Restaurant owners often argue with local authorities about providing parking spaces to make it more convenient for their customers. When writing a book, the author needs to choose how to arrange and organize the content to match the reflective nature of the work. The book often repeats and builds upon ideas about research, theory, and practice as the story unfolds. The colors used in old-time photographs were influenced by the dyes and pigments available at that time. These colors had a big impact on the overall look and feel of the photos, reflecting the style and period in history they belonged to. Blue whales are the biggest mammals alive. There are different reports about their maximum size, but Antarctic blue whales have been known to grow up to 100 feet long and weigh more than 150 tons. Sadly, their numbers have drastically decreased due to whaling activities. In our bodies, tissues come together to make organs like the brain, heart, lungs, kidneys, and liver. Each organ has a unique shape and is made of different kinds of tissues that work together. For instance, the heart is mostly made of a special type of muscle tissue that contracts in a rhythmic way to make the heart pump. Two sisters were at a dinner party when the conversation turned to upbringing. The elder sister started to say that her parents had been very strict and that she had been rather frightened of them. Using more than 50 interviews, award-winning writer Danny Danziger creates a fascinating mosaic of the people behind New York's magnificent Metropolitan Museum of Art, from the aristocratic, acerbic director of the museum, Philippe de Montebello, to the curators who have a deep knowledge and passionate appreciation. The Office of Personnel Management was the target of the attack, but data from nearly every government agency was stolen. U.S. investigators say they believe Chinese hackers were behind the breach. Not a lot is known about how the transportation of goods by water first began. Large cargo boats were being used in some parts of the world up to 5,000 years ago. However, sea trade became more widespread when large sailing boats traveled between ports, carrying spices, perfumes, and objects made by hand. The findings of modern research support the view that the evolution of primitive men and its culture should be regarded as unity. Yet this unity is exceedingly complex, and future research will doubtless enable us to make finer distinctions between the periods that people composed it. A total of 5 ozone ascents were taken at Indian Mission Antarctica from April to June 2016. As stratospheric temperatures reduced to -82.24, -82.24 degrees Celsius, on the 20th of June. It seems that language appeared from nowhere since no other species has anything resembling human language. However, other animals do possess basic systems for perceiving and producing sounds that enable them to communicate. These systems may have been in place before the appearance of language. Scholars build their own personal libraries to support not only particular projects but also general reading in their field. They buy or make photocopies of materials when possible, so they can consult them frequently, mark pages and write annotation on them. When moving into a new field, they add to their collections, usually concentrating on primary texts. Heart disease is the leading cause of death for both men and women in the United States. While often thought of as one illness, heart disease is actually an umbrella term that covers a range of heart conditions. It includes diseases of the blood vessels, including coronary artery disease and peripheral artery disease and so on. As technology keeps growing, political and economic leaders have utilized cinema in changing and shaping people's outlooks either for their own benefit or for the benefit of the people. Quality translations are also readily available and extremely affordable for everyone these days. Computer and smartphone-based treatments appear to be effective in reducing symptoms of depression, and while it remains unclear whether they are as effective as face-to-face psychotherapy, they offer a promising alternative to address the growing mental health needs spawned by the COVID-19 pandemic. Categorization is the brain's tool to organize nearly everything we encounter in our daily lives. Grouping information into categories simplifies our complex world and helps us to react quickly and effectively to new experiences. The tropics are becoming hotter due to a combination of warming associated with deforestation and climate change, and that can reduce the ability of outdoor workers to perform their jobs safely. Researchers are estimating how many safe working hours people living in the tropics have lost due to local temperature change associated with loss of trees. There were various explanations for volcano behavior before the structure of the Earth mantle as a semisolid material was developed. For decades, awareness that compression and radioactive materials may be heat sources was discounted, and volcanic action was often attributed to chemical reactions and a thin layer of molten rock near the surface. This is a new, accessible and engaging textbook written by academics who also work as consultants with organizations undergoing change. It offers a unique combination of rigorous theoretical exploration together with practical insights from working with those who are actually responsible for managing change.
Genetics is the study of heredity and the variation of traits in living organisms. Genes, which are segments of DNA, contain instructions for specific traits. Inheritance patterns, such as dominant and recessive genes, determine how traits are passed from parents to offspring.
The word radical, from the Latin word for roots, means anyone who advocates fundamental change in the political system. Literally, a radical is one who proposes to attack some political or social problem by going deep into the social or economic fabric to get at the root cause and alter this basic weakness. The whole purpose of making notes is to aid your learning. It is important to go back over them within a day of making them to make sure they make sense and make them legible for future revisions. Also, going back over them should highlight the key questions of areas in which you want to do further reading. We believe in the inherent value of research in the humanities and social sciences. And our research data agenda is given by the pursuit of new knowledge that will be of benefit of Australia and the world. We offer one of the most comprehensive programs in the humanities and social sciences in Australia and the Asian Pacific region. COVID-19 pandemic is linked to early onset of puberty in some girls. Several studies suggest that the number of girls starting puberty early has more than doubled amid the coronavirus outbreak, and experts are unsure about exactly why. When countries assess their annual carbon emissions, they count up their cars and power stations, but bush fires are not included, presumably because they are deemed to be events beyond human control. In Australia, Victoria alone sees several 100,000 hectares burn each year. In both 2004 and more recently, the figure has been over 1 million hectares. When countries assess their annual carbon emissions, they count up their cars and power stations, but bush fires are not included, presumably because they are deemed to be events beyond human control. In Australia, Victoria alone sees several 100,000 hectares burn each year. In both 2004 and more recently, the figure has been over 1 million hectares. The core of the problem was the immense disparity between the country's productive capacity and the ability of people to consume. Great innovations in productive techniques during and after the war raised the output of industry beyond the purchasing capacity of U.S. farmers and wage earners. Global warming is defined as an increase in the average temperature of the Earth's atmosphere. This trend began in the middle of the 20th century and is one of the major environmental concerns of scientists and governmental officials worldwide. The changes in temperature result mostly from the effect of increased concentrations of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Modern buildings have to achieve certain performance requirements, at least to satisfy those of building codes, to provide a safe, healthy, and comfortable environment. However, these conditioned environments demand resources in energy and materials, which are both limited in supply, to build and operate. Every few seconds, our eyelids automatically shutter and our eyeballs roll back in their sockets. So why doesn't blinking plunge us into intermittent darkness and light? New research shows that the brain works extra hard to stabilize our vision despite our fluttering eyes. The role of women in promoting voluntary medical male circumcision uptake. Research reveals the important role played by women in influencing men to undergo circumcision. Women are also motivated to convince men to undergo male circumcision because of the benefits associated with them, such as reduction of HIV transmission and cervical cancer. In every cultivated language there are two great classes of words which, taken together, comprise the whole vocabulary. First, there are those words with which we become acquainted in daily conversation, which we learn from the members of our own family and from our familiar associates, and which we should know and use even if we could not read or write. Central idea. The central idea of this book concerns our blindness with respect to randomness, particularly the large deviations. Why do we, scientists or non-scientists, hotshots or regular Joes, tend to see the pennies instead of the dollars? Why do we keep focusing on the minutiae, not the possible significant large events, in spite of the obvious evidence of their huge influence? Particle accelerators produce and accelerate beams of charged particles, such as electrons, protons and ions, of atomic and subatomic size. They are used not only in fundamental research for an improved understanding of matter, but also in plethora of socio-economic applications related to environmental monitoring. Programs, such as delicate wash or color wash, are one of the features of washing machines, particularly fully automatic washing machines, which gives you the choice when it comes to how you want to wash your clothes. Giving pocket money to children as young as 4 or 5 years helps them start learning about the value of money and money management. When children get pocket money, they have to make choices about spending or saving. Astronomers announced that they have finally assembled an image of the supermassive black hole at the center of our galaxy. This image shows a bright ring surrounding the darkness, the telltale sign of the shadow of the black hole. It reveals the turbulent, twisting region immediately surrounding the black hole in new detail. The benefits of home fencing are not only as a barrier between the area of the house and the surrounding environment. In simple words, a fence is a formation or structure that is above the ground and is generally vertical, with the intention of limiting an area, protecting everything inside the fence, from threatening danger from outside the fence. Psychology is the study of cognitions, emotions, and behavior. Psychologists are involved in a variety of tasks. Many spend their careers designing and performing research to understand how people behave in specific situations, how and why we think the way we do, and how emotions develop and what impact they have on our interactions with others.